Hello, I'm Robin Bilazarian. I'm a social worker, a licensed social worker, working with the emotional freedom technique and tapping. And I have the honor of having Deborah Miller with us today. She is a psychologist that's working in Mexico, and these are her two books. She's an established author, and I'm delighted. So, Deborah, can you introduce yourself a little bit?
Sure. It's really a pleasure to be here with you, Robin. And you know I love talking about tapping and children. And my background, actually, I have a doctorate in cell and molecular biology. So
Ooh,
my training is science, and I like science, and I like combining the science with the emotional aspects. So one of the reasons I like tapping so much is because of the science that's coming out of it and how we're showing in research, that we're lowering stress hormones and we're looking at how it affects our physiology as well as our emotional state. So, the background is cell and molecular biology. I've done Reiki, I do coaching, I do a lot of tapping. Since 2007, I've been helping children with cancer using techniques like tapping to help them deal with all the emotions and the stress and the pain even that comes from it. So we work on all those emotional aspects of what occurs when you have an illness, as well as the parents and the nurses and the medical staff, because we all get stressed when we see a child who's ill. And so my goal is always to help people feel better and have tools, practical, simple, easy to use tools that, literally with tapping are right at your fingertips. And so that's kind of a little bit of a background of who I am and what I do.
that's really fabulous. So we're going to show you how to do the emotional freedom technique today, and do that for children. But we just need to pause, okay, because this is not therapy. This is a public video, and we hope that the information within makes your life better and helps you to calm down upsets, worries, and sometimes even physical pain that sick children have to endure, as well as the families and the staff. By continuing to watch this, you're agreeing that this is an informational video and not therapy, and you're assuming all risk of a virtual presentation. If anything is overwhelming, please contact a mental health professional, your medical doctor, or you can go to your local emergency room for assistance. So, Deborah, here we are. And I just love the work that you're doing. I'm so honored that you're doing all this work in a cancer hospital with children. Is that right?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's wonderful.
Yes. As well as apart from that, yes. And
as well as
and in Mexico, and then I do a lot of online work as well. So I've worked with children in other countries as well, because I've learned so much from these master teachers, these children that I've learned from. They've been amazing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. I always say to my clients, you are the expert. I'm only the educated guide. Okay. And I'm sure that you sort of feel that similar that way too.
Exactly.
So are there, for those of us who are less informed about working with children who have illnesses, are there some key points that you look at, key things that people miss that you're aware of that you want to emphasize?
I think I want to start actually with parents, because it's natural when you have a child who's ill that you want to put 100% focus on your child. That's natural. There isn't a parent who isn't going to have that desire. But what I found is that when the parents actually take the time to manage their own emotions and their own stress and their own fears, that it creates this amazing result in their children. Because the child knows their parents are stressed. They feel their fear and they reflect it back to their parents. So when the parents are calm and peaceful and calmer and more capable of being present with them, even though it's a traumatic situation, we're not denying that. When they see their parent calm, they instantly start calming. So this is just a very simple thing that you can do. Simple but not simple, right? Because you're managing fears of losing your child, fears of all the things your child will have to go through. But as you manage your emotions and find the tools, simple things like tapping, to reduce your fear, reduce your stress, reduce your worry about your child, right? And all the effects that go on, as well as, the financial fears, the travel fears, the being in the hospital fears, and how once your child is diagnosed with an illness, how basically your life changes. From that moment on, it changes. And then how do you deal with all of that? Plus the needs of your child as they are looking for treatment to move through the recovery process, right? So that's one of my first things to say, right?
Yeah. So let's jump into this, because
Sure.
it's pretty amazing to say to a parent with a sick child, just present calmly to your family.
Yes.
It's another thing to show them how to do that.
Yes,
Okay.
exactly.
So perhaps we could start by showing parents
Sure.
how to do that using EFT and tapping.
Sure.
And then maybe after that, we can also talk about some specific things that you've done to calm the children down as
Yes.
they're getting ready to endure some procedures.
Sure, exactly. And that's another aspect that's really important. So usually with parents, it's simple to start with worry, right? Or fear. I mean, those are two common emotions that are absolutely present, if not panic and etc. Because some parents go into the real worry state and some go into the total shutdown state, right? Because they just can't deal. So they go into the kind of freeze mode instead of the fear and panic. So usually I just ask them, and I learned a lot working with the children, and this works as well with parents because they're not really ready to deal with the words that go with things. So I keep it really simple, or I might use like a color. So we can just use fear and give me a color that represents fear for you.
Red.
Red. Okay. And it doesn't matter what color it is, whatever color the parent would say. It could be black, it could be green, it could be whatever. And we'll just use that. And so should we do a little tapping to kind of show that? I'll just do
how
a round
about
or two.
how about if I echo you
Sure.
as if I were the parent?
Absolutely.
Okay, so you'll be the leader and parents echo with me as we do this.
Perfect. Okay. So I'm going to imagine that the fear is really high, because it usually is for parents. So we won't even do the SUD scale and try and figure it out. It's usually between an 8 and 10 for most parents when they're in the hospital and they're with their child. So we'll just start tapping on the side of the hand and just say, even though I have this fear.
Even though I have this fear.
And it's really huge.
And it's really huge.
And it's red.
And it's red.
I choose to accept myself.
I choose to accept myself.
And even though I have this huge fear about my child.
And even though I have this huge fear about my child.
And for my child.
And for my child.
I choose to love myself anyway.
I choose to love myself anyway.
And even though I have this huge fear for my child.
And even though I have this huge fear for my child.
And it's red.
And it's red.
I choose to love and accept myself.
I choose to love and accept myself.
Okay, so we'll do top of the head. This fear for my child.
This fear for my child.
You can do one hand or two. I tend to do two. At the eyebrow. This fear.
This fear.
Side of the eye. This red fear.
This red fear.
Under the eye. This red fear.
This red fear.
Underneath the nose. I have this huge fear.
I have this huge fear.
Underneath the lips. This huge fear I feel.
This huge fear I feel.
Collarbone. How am I going to help my child?
How I'm going to help my child.
Okay, and underneath the arm. I have this huge fear.
I have this huge fear.
Okay, and I like doing the wrist point, so I'll do the wrist points. So this huge fear I have.
This huge fear that I have.
Okay, we'll go on top of the head. It's not helping me or my child.
It's not helping me or my child.
Eyebrow. It's making me really stressed.
It's making me really stressed.
Out of the eye. It's not helping me think calmly.
It's not helping me to think calmly.
This huge red fear.
This huge red fear.
Underneath the nose. I would like to let some of it go.
I would like to let some of it go.
Underneath the lips. I give myself permission to let some of it go.
I give myself permission to let some of it go.
Collarbone. Because I know if I'm calmer, my child will feel calmer.
Because I know if I'm calmer, my child will be calmer.
And under the arm. And I know that's really important.
And I know that's really important.
Okay. So wrist point. So I'm choosing to let go of some of this fear.
I'm choosing to let go of some of this fear.
Even if I can't let go of all of it.
Even if I can't let go of all of it.
I'm going to let go as much as I can.
I'm going to let go as much as I can.
So I'm going to choose to breathe deeply. Yeah. And I choose to let go of this fear.
And I choose to let go of this fear.
I let go of this red in my body.
I let go of this red in my body.
I let go of this red fear.
I let go of this red fear.
I'm choosing calm.
I'm choosing calm.
I'm choosing to be calm for me and my child.
I'm choosing to be calm for me and my child
As much as I can,
as much as I can,
because it's important for me and my child.
because it's important for me and my child,
And I love my child.
and I love my child.
Okay, so let's just take a deep breath. So that's just a simple little round. And I find even a round like that, you know, a fear of 8 to 10 can drop down to 4, 5, you know, and once the intensity is dropped down, now you can have more logical conversations. You can think about what needs to be done. The child perceives that the fear has dropped. And this is really important, right? Because they are so perceptive. And they
Yeah,
see when you're panicked.
Right.
Yes.
I just want to add that what you did was 3 rounds.
I
And
just did 3 rounds.
there's no reason if you, the parent, are still upset to not go back and rewind it and just play it again. So to do
Yes.
3 rounds, 6 rounds, 9 rounds, until you feel yourself really
Yes.
mellow so that
Yes.
you can be present for your child.
Yes. And I tell people as well, because sometimes when they're panicked, they don't know what words to use. And I said, well, if not, just continually tap. Just tap on the points until you start feeling calmer. It may take a little bit longer, you know, because the words help us focus in on what's going on. But sometimes we're just overwhelmed. We can't even think about what words to use.
Right.
So just tap the points and just keep tapping the points until your body starts to relax and your mind starts to relax. And you can keep repeating these phrases, as Robin says, and this is part of the key right here. We're just doing a little demo. We're doing a little show you how you can. And if I was working with somebody, I would specifically maybe use the child's name, or we would talk about what they were worried about, or what is going on, or what the actual fear is. But this is just like a little general thing. And using like the color is I find really interesting, because the right side of your brain is more global. This red fear, and I might ask them where it is in their body. Oh, it's in my head, it's in my chest, it's in my belly. And then we use visualization of how that leaves your body as well. So you can take this even more in depth to make the release. But there's also this part of tapping with someone, that company. You know, I'm not alone in my fear, and somebody's guiding me and somebody's present. So please feel free to reach out to people who have these capabilities to help you, because you don't have to be alone in this. And it's big, it can be really overwhelming, but it doesn't have to be, right? I mean, there's still things that are really difficult to deal with, but you can do it from a much calmer place, and then everything goes better.
So Deborah, I'm also going to ask you,
Yes.
what would you do? How would you work with a worried child who was perhaps worried about a procedure that they were going to have?
Yes.
Could you talk us through that? Yes.
Sure. I can give a couple examples. And one of the examples is just having an IV put in. I mean, even adults, we don't like needles poked into our arms and, you know, into our veins and things like that. And children particularly don't either. And so a lot of times we'll just start tapping about what that is. And also I do a lot of things of explaining. So one of the things I think is really important is that most of the times people just, you know, in the stress, a parent or even the nurse or, you know, or whoever is working with the child, sometimes they forget that you really need to connect with the child and explain things. So, you know, explaining what the IV is for and what they're going to do. And so I explain to them too. It's like, you know, let's say they're putting an IV here, right? And if your hand is really tight, then how do you poke something in there, right? It's tough and it makes it more difficult for the nurse. So I just held them like, well, what happens when you relax your hand? Oh, your skin is looser and it makes it easier. So then I might have a conversation. Well, the nurse doesn't want to hurt you. They want to do it on one shot. You know, they just want to do one time. They want to do it as quickly as possible. And if you're as relaxed as possible, they'll be relaxed. And then this is the process, right? And so then I would tap with them. I've had nurses come up to me and say, this IV is blocked. I have to put in another one. Would you tap? And I would tap on the child while the nurse is removing one IV and going to the other hand to put in another one. And she would just say, you know, as you're tapping, it's like, she goes, it's like I see the vein. because as you relax, also the veins can come up. They don't kind of like constrict and hide, right? So I might even use that. Well, if you relax, then the vein can come up so they can see it, the nurses have a pretty good idea of where things are and how to work with that. Another example is like surgery, right? So I've had children where, they put them in a gurney and off they go and there's no explanation. They have no idea what's going on. So what happens when we don't know? We go to panic. We start imagining all kinds of crazy things. Now a child, unfortunately, what happens when they have to go into the surgery room while they're waiting, they're alone. Parent can't go in there. So now their whole mind is just running all kinds of stories, right? So there's an example of a young child, and luckily the person who puts him on the gurney and takes him on saw me and just waited. The child's on the gurney. We're doing tapping on the gurney for maybe 2-3 minutes, right? And the child was due to go, but this assistant knew this child needed the support. And so I just explained to him, well, I don't know exactly what it's going to be like because I didn't. I said, well, maybe they might put, the medication to put you to sleep in your IV, or they might put like a mask over your face and it's just going to make you want to go to sleep, and you'll go to sleep and the doctors are going to do whatever they need to do for you. And then you'll be kind of groggy and sleepy for a little bit in a little room. And then once you really wake up and they know you're okay, they'll just bring you back to your bed. And then your mom will be there. And it was amazing. We just tapped a couple minutes after that with those kind of phrases.
Could you show us?
Sure, I can. Sure.
Yeah.
But to finish the story before we tap, it was amazing because the surgeon was someone that I knew, and he goes, what did you do to that child? He says, I've never seen a child so calm waiting for surgery. One, because the child had an idea what was going to happen, even though it wasn't exactly what was going to happen. And I didn't go into any gory details or any of those sorts of things, but just enough information. Same with the spinal tap, same with any other technique. When you give them an idea what's going to happen, then they can be more prepared, and then you can help them deal with the emotions that come up around that, right? Okay. And so there's definite results from that, right? Okay. So you want to do like before surgery kind of tapping?
Yeah.
Or before an IV?
So I never want to use children on a tape because I feel like that's a violation. Okay, so
Sure.
I'm happy to pretend to be a 10-year-old that's going to have surgery.
Yes.
And you can use me as that person. I'm just so afraid of
Okay.
this surgery, and I do know the numbers. I'm probably a 9, or
Okay.
I'm a 9.
You're a big, yeah,
I'm
not a
afraid
little,
of this.
a big.
I'm afraid of the surgery.
Yes. Okay. And do you want to imagine a type of surgery that it is? Because it could be something as simple as an appendicitis. Doesn't mean you have to have.
Well, simple. That's simple to the adults. I don't know that it's simple to the kids.
No, it's not
Sure,
simple to a kid. But I mean, as far as life-threatening,
Sure.
appendicitis is on the lower scale than others. We're just kind of playing with the game, with the scales here. Okay. So 1, there's pain. 2, there's a surgery coming. There's fear. Okay. All right. So fear is a 9. Let's give it a color again.
It's black.
It's black. All right. Okay. So we'll just tap on the side of the hand. Even though I have this black fear.
Even though I have this black fear.
I don't know what's going to happen.
I don't know what's going to happen.
But I'm still a good girl.
But I'm still a good girl.
Even though I'm afraid.
Even though I'm afraid.
I don't know what the doctor's going to do.
I don't know what the doctor's going to do.
And it really scares me.
And it really scares me.
And even though I have this black fear.
And even though I have this black fear.
It's really big.
It's really big.
But I'm still a wonderful young girl.
But I'm still a wonderful young girl.
Okay, top of the head. All of this fear.
All of this fear.
I don't know what they're going to do.
I don't know what they're going to do.
I don't know if it's going to be painful.
I don't know if it's going to be painful.
It's already painful.
It's already painful.
Right? Appendicitis is already painful, right? I don't know what they're going to do.
I don't know what they're going to do.
Nobody's telling me what they're going to do.
Nobody's telling me what they're going to do.
And it makes me even more afraid.
And it makes me even more afraid.
Okay. So let's just think about what will happen.
So I'm worried about what will happen.
Yeah. Okay. So most likely,
Most likely,
they'll take me into the surgery room.
they'll take me into the surgery room.
They'll help me fall asleep.
They'll help me fall asleep.
I won't have to feel anything.
I won't have to feel anything.
I just get to go to sleep.
I just get to go to sleep.
So I choose to relax
I choose to relax
so I can fall asleep.
so that I can fall asleep.
And they'll help me
And they'll help me
with medications that make me fall asleep.
with medications that help me fall asleep.
And then the doctor's going to do what he needs to do, he or she.
And then the doctor's going to do what they need to do.
All right. So they're going to take care of my appendix.
They're going to take care of my appendix
Yeah. And make sure that I'm okay.
and make sure that I'm okay.
And I'm just going to sleep through the whole thing.
And I'm just going to sleep through the whole
I don't
thing.
even have to worry about it.
I don't even have to worry about it.
Okay. And then when I wake up,
And then when I wake up,
they'll observe me for a little while,
they'll observe me for a little while,
make sure I'm really okay,
make sure I'm really okay,
make sure I'm awake,
make sure I'm really awake.
and then they'll take me back to my room
And then they'll take me back to my room
where my mom or dad is.
where my mom and dad are.
Yeah, exactly. So it's okay for me to let go of this fear.
It's okay for me to let go of this fear.
Okay. They know what they're doing.
They know what they're doing.
They know how to take care of me.
They know how to take care of me.
So I'm going to choose to trust them.
So I'm going to choose to trust them.
Then I'm going to be okay.
So I'm going to be okay.
And I'm going to have a chat with my body too.
And I'm going to have a chat with my body.
Hey, body, we can get through this.
Hey, body, we can get through this.
We're really strong.
We're really strong.
We're capable.
We're really capable.
We know how to get better.
We know how to get better.
So body, you and I, when this
So
is
body,
over,
you and I,
we're going to get past this.
we're going to get past this.
We're going to be more than fine.
We're going to be more than fine.
We'll be off running and playing soon.
And we'll be running off and playing soon.
Okay.
Deborah, that is fabulous. Like, let me just say how I experienced it, because I don't know your work. I experienced it as the fear, and then the whole lovely explanation and the evolving of the procedure as my body, everything relaxed. That is just over the top wonderful as a way. In other words, many people can just explain this is going to happen and this is going to happen and this is going to happen, but adding the tapping to it is like quieting me down each time I hear, oh, they're going to be surgery. Oh, they're going to put me under. Oh, you know, how wonderful.
Yeah. And this is part of it. So one, we're taking advantage of tapping, reducing our stress hormones in our body, right? And it's dealing with the emotions, which in this case, we were using an example of fear. And then by doing that, as well as the explanation, now we have the mental as well as the emotional and the physiological all going on at the same time. And it's amazing. And you know, they're short rounds. You can use this as adult. It doesn't matter, adult or child. But children tend to let things go much quicker than adults. They've got less layers usually than an adult does. And so it's amazing how sometimes, you know, 2-3 minutes and they're just like, oh, okay. Oh, that's what's going to happen. Oh, okay.
Yeah. Really wonderful. I could talk to you all day, but you know what? I think that we want to sort of let people know a little bit more about these books of yours.
Okay.
Okay. Because they are pretty darn impressive. Okay. Oops. If I can get there. So do you want to say anything about these books?
Sure. The Dragon with Flames of Love is a book that came out because of the work I've done with the children with cancer. I'd be in there working with the parents and I'd be working with the kids and I'd say, oh, have you done your tapping? Like, oh, I forgot, or I don't do it as well as you do. And so it prompted me to give them a guide, right?
Right, and I've looked at this book, and you have put the words in there for the families to follow.
Exactly.
The words and the tapping, that's wonderful.
Because they're actually based on real children, real things I did, as close to verbatim as what we did, right? And so I'm giving a story of what really happened, how we did the tapping, and then I explain in the book how you can modify that tapping example to fit your situation, okay? And so there's different topics like how do you talk to your immune system? right? How do you talk to your blood cells? How do you release your fears? How do you, what are some of the other ones? How do you deal with a spinal tap? So we have all sorts of different stories that are based on real experiences if you are dealing with a serious illness. And then there's a guide for parents as well. And then in the beginning of the book, I talk a little bit more about, well, what's tapping, how I got into the situation with the hospital and the kids. And it's also an honoring of the children who allowed me to learn so much with them, you know, and take that and utilize it and share it with other people who have the same need. So that's
Sounds
the Dragon
wonderful.
with Flames of Love, right?
You know that I shared with you, I bought the book and I gave it to the hospital, to the Child Life team. And I
Yes.
know one person was using it, and that's fabulous.
Yes.
How about the other book, Deborah?
The other book is new. It just came out in March of this year, 2020. And it's Emotional First Aid for Children. It's written by me and John D. Wittes. And so this is a process as well where we're looking at, there are currently so many traumas in the world. You know, whether it's a flood, whether it's a hurricane, whether it's a shooting, you know, now we got, you know, COVID-19. So children get really stressed and worried. And so our goal is to prevent ACEs, or these childhood traumas that then get layered as you become an adult. And so this is not really a tapping book, but we mentioned tapping, but it gives you all sorts of really simple techniques to use and strategies, anything from breathing, touching, finger squeezes, other techniques that you can use. But the first part of the book is really about you, the adult, who is going to work with children, whether it's your children or anybody else's children, how to then manage your own stress. And then we teach about what are the phases of trauma, and then what techniques you can use with children in the second part. And then the third part, we start a little bit then about how can you teach others. So
Yeah.
we made it very simple, very straightforward, and lots of techniques. And so you can read them through the book or just go to the appendix and pick out, you know, something that will help you and related to, you know, children and specifically to the ages that they.
Yeah,
that they
I've also purchased this book, and one of the things that I like about this book is you have not only the emotional piece, you have a lot of mind-body techniques
Mind body, yes.
in ways to manage it.
Yes,
Okay.
the you know, the heart-brain coherence, we talk
Yeah.
about breathing, we talk about verbal language and using appropriate verbal skills. And also, you know, are you going to stand over the child, or are you going to be more at the child's level? Or we're going to work at, you know, the other physical cues that we can use. And so we combined all of that. And so we really want people to know that there are really simple ways that we can release trauma. They don't
Okay.
have to accumulate.
Deborah, thank you so much for your time.
You're
I am
welcome.
truly honored to have spent this time with you.
Well, it's been a delight being here and sharing a little bit of what I know.